My name is Beth Minot. I am the director of the Institute for People and Technology, and it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you here to our fall kickoff town hall. We do this at the beginning of every semester, fall and spring semester. So it's really a chance for us to get together as a community, to find out about new activities, to meet new folks, and really just start the semester off with a bang and a lot of fun and excitement. We like the fall kickoff because we don't have to worry about snow and ice delays and all of the things that always threaten us in January. And it's just really exciting to have so many of you here. And I know people are also connecting online to our live stream. So we want to talk to you about the upcoming activities. We'll share lots of dates with you. It's okay, everything is on the website, but we want you to have an overall awareness. We're going to talk a little bit about the continual evolution of the IRI model and the things that you will see IPaT doing or evolving as the semester rolls on. We really want to jumpstart some conversations around new IPaT initiatives. So we have funded through partnership with GVU. Thank you, Keith Edwards, director of the GVU Center. Funded a number of engagement grants, so you'll hear from each of those grants, as well as from a couple of other speakers about things that they're doing. And we just want you to talk and connect with your colleagues, swap cool stories from the summer, from the Labor Day weekend, and the things that you'll be doing going forward. So we will have some new faces that I want to introduce. So apparently the now key requirement for being a new staff member in IPaT is to be named Sean, but the spelling is optional, so there's some flexibility there. So we have Sean Imazadin. Actually, I've never been coached. He just goes by Sean. So Sean has joined us with our IT support. And then we have Sean McNeil, who's also working with us through Lima Cook's group, through our connection through GTRI, doing photography and other work there. And I don't think Sean McNeil is here with us. So everyone tell Sean fun Georgia Tech stories during the break. I know there's a pile of new faculty on campus, and there's really no way for us to rigorously connect with all these folks, but some of them are already working with us or connecting with us in new ways, so I at least wanted to pull out some new faces for you. So Grace Leslie is here. So she's a new faculty member in music technology, and she'll actually be giving the next GVU Brown Bag next week. So Thursday at noon will be a chance to learn about her. There she is. I knew she came in. Hi, Grace. Ben Shapiro, I don't know if he has wandered over yet. Ben comes to us from Duke, Vanderbilt. Oh, 50-50. I know. And is working in Betsy DeSalvo's group. All right, and has been here, or is just a whole bunch of people who knew I got it wrong? Okay. And then is Anne here yet? She's teaching. Okay, Anne will be coming in once her class is finished. So she's joined the faculty in psychology, and she's already partnered on one of our engagement grants, working with Laura Levy, and you're going to hear more about that. So many new things going on. You might have heard of this project called CUDA, this new building. IPaT, a fraction of us will be setting up shop in CUDA. Matt Sanders, who I know is here, but I've lost momentarily. Matt has done a hero's amount of work on behalf of IPaT and really on behalf of campus in terms of all of the planning and coordination for the CUDA building. In fact, a fraction of us are over there right now preparing for I won't say yet another, I just said it, yet another CUDA event. But we will be setting up on the 14th, details are going to escape me, 14th floor. We're sharing space with our neighbors in GTRI as we share space here. And we will be adjacent to one of the health neighborhoods on a subsequent floor. So Matt will tell you in beautiful detail all the ways that we're going to be using the space, but again, it's going to be a combination of developing partnerships with industry, co-residents within the space, supporting the breadth of faculty research that's taking place there, and also kind of building up a number of our health technologies, both on the data analytics side, as well as the mobile and home health technologies, and you're going to hear more about that during the town hall. Many events. This is your overview just to get a gist for the calendar, and then we're going to go through some of these in more detail. So I'm going to be telling you soon about the Everyday Georgia exhibition, which is a one-of-a-kind experience that will be happening here at IPaT on September 27th. So that's one of our Thirsty events. We have Thursday think tanks here most Thursdays, unless we have a special event overriding it. And that's just a time that you can count and come in and interact with the IPaT community, learn about new things. We will be partnering, as always, with the GVU Center for the Research Showcase in October. GVU takes the lead on that, and we augment that and support that in a number of ways. Hundreds of demonstrations. If you have a prospective partner who is thinking about how they might want to work with Georgia Tech, commercial, nonprofit, doesn't matter, community partner, this is just a great way to introduce them to the candy store of all of the ideas and all the innovation that's happening. And then they walk away a little bit overwhelmed and then say, okay, how can I be part of that? So definitely either participate, bring people to the showcase. The Convergence Innovation Competition is one of our major student engagement platforms. I will talk about that as well, but that's going to be November 14th. Again, hundreds of students, transatlantic, again for now the second or third year with the partnership with the Mets campus. I don't know why it says B many dates, but the Games for Jane Jams. There will be many, many dates. So Lima Cook is going to talk to you about this, but this continues kind of our innovation, but into STEM education. The research directors get together on a regular basis just to continue to enhance our research network across campus. And then Cynthia probably hasn't noticed, but I randomly picked a date for the holiday all hands where we will get together and celebrate the end of the semester. So I mentioned Thursday think tanks. Jennifer Mullins is here. So yay, Jennifer, for all of the work that she has done, filling up a tremendous schedule for this Thursday, as well as I think she's got most of the spring filled. So we have now created a scarcity resource, which is going to make it even more popular for people to bug Jennifer to get on the schedule. What we do with Thursday think tanks is this is a chance for the community to come together, to hear an idea, to hear a pitch, to engage in brainstorming. It is essentially the opposite of an academic seminar. So it will not be a lengthy presentation, but it's a chance for us to toss out some new ideas and then engage as a community around that. Every think tank that I have been to, even those old-fashioned things like business cards are being swapped. People are connecting, people are discussing new ideas. We have definitely had new proposals and projects come out of the think tank discussions, not to mention building new partnerships. So the first one, listen very carefully, the first think tank will not be here, but it will be across the way in TSRB on the second floor, 209. So we're going to the Atlanta map room, and Yanni is going to be our host. We're going to see an amazing demonstration of the prototypes that the students and his team have been building, and we're going to have I'm really looking forward to the discussion of all the different ways that this platform and the provocative questions that it poses can be further embraced by our community. You're going to have more work than you know what to do with once we are done. We are also going to make sure that we spend time with the think tanks, not only talking about new research ideas and partnerships, but ways that we participate in our community as a whole. So we're really excited to have folks from Clemens Kitchen coming over to talk about the reality of the lives of many of our students here on the Georgia Tech campus. We spend a great deal of our research thinking about how we support and help diverse communities all across the world. And one of the communities that we need to support are the students that we have here. So this is an opportunity for the IPaT community not to just think with your research head on, or maybe even your teaching hat, but what does it mean to be a member of Georgia Tech? And what are the things that we can rally together to do to support our students who are in need much more so than I think we realize on a day-to-day basis. We're going to have some exciting visitors come and meet with us. So the Chief Innovation Officer, something very exciting like that, is coming to us from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. They are an extremely exciting funding and partner group within the healthcare space. They don't partner explicitly with academic institutions as opposed to individual researchers, but Georgia Tech is now on their short list of the portfolio partnerships that they want to build. So he will be coming down and spending 2 days with us, including the think tank. So I'm not going to go through all of these. You're going to hear about a number of these because they're also going to get picked up by our engagement grants, but just put that Thursday time slot on your schedule. Most of the time they are here, but next week it's going to be where? TSRB, second floor, 209. Yay. Thank you. Convergence Innovation Competition. Again, this is our outreach to the student community. Hundreds of students participate. We have 3 exciting categories this year to guide their participation: climate solutions, active aging in players and fans. And there are going to be a number of faculty and programs that are supporting and helping coach the students in these areas. Tell your students about this. Please contact Jennifer. Please contact Shiva, Matt, Russ, and others for how you can get your students in your classes engaged in this competition. This is an exciting group. I think they were one of the winners last spring, and this is them in front of their startup, and have a lot of success and a lot of excitement around that. So again, it's across the Atlantic, so it's a transatlantic competition, and this is a great chance for students to take those project ideas. This is very early in the innovation pipeline. We've also had a number of these teams then move into Venture Lab, move into CreateX and other competition opportunities. And then, as I said, either graduate and have numerous job offers waiting for them, or in this case, go ahead and start up their own company. Everyday Georgia is a new program for us, and it's extremely special. I'm extremely proud of Allison. Thank you. Everybody's on the back row. Extremely proud of Allison because this is something that she initiated last year. For those of you who remember, there was a competition for collaboration with the Office of the Arts and the GT Library to showcase and engage our research community in new ways. This is going to be an exhibition where we have had essentially all walks of campus participate in this. Students, staff, research programs, engaging with the stakeholders, let me say the real people that are involved in our research. And what we wanted to do was not tell the story of research per se, not talk about publications or funding or all these things that professors are used to talking about, but talk to the people on the other side of that partnership, have them tell their story about why this work matters to them, their perspective on it, how they feel it could have an impact in their lives, and what they feel about their engagement with Georgia Tech as part of that process. So we really wanted to flip that conversation. What we will have in the exhibition, as you see, is 13 stories. So we have a series of photographs for each of the story narratives, and then we also have audio interviews. So it will be both kind of a visual and auditory experience for you to immerse yourself into those narratives. And we hope that these materials will find its home at other Georgia Tech events. And I hope we can figure out a way to continue to do this, maybe not every year, it's a lot of work. But I think it's an important way for us to embrace our values around diversity and our values around how we want our research to have an impact in the world, to let that narrative come front and center. So this will be the opening of Everyday Georgia. And the registration and information is already available on our website. I hope to see all of you here. And again, kudos to Allison for making all of this happen. More kudos to Allison and to Raul, but I also wanted to mention our impact report. What we have decided to do in lieu of a traditional annual report, which really doesn't make sense with the IRI model, is focus on every 3 years to tell the story of what we think the impact of our work is across our research pillars. So you'll see a preview of it outside Yellow Jacket, so maybe you saw it as you walked in, telling that story. And some of the things that I want to point out to, and I actually think Sherry Ferrugia gets credit for this, but one of the areas that we have is a map of Georgia, and we have the traditional map dots for every place that IPaT is in the state and making a difference. And to be fair, we are actually pretty conservative, so it is a ongoing research program. For example, if we included every community or every city that contacted us with a Smart Community Challenge, we would have filled the map. But these are places where there is work going on, and we know that lives are being changed because of what we're doing here. So again, check it out. It'll be on our website, and it will be in the EVPR office for distribution starting next week. So right now, as I shift into the second part of our presentation, I would like everyone on this list to please stand up. I've been talking to you about the impact of what we do here at IPaT. The impact is drawn from our researchers and our students, but it also comes from the amazing people that make up the staff of IPaT. So Cynthia Moore, who's in charge of our business operation, Allison, who I've already bragged about for marketing and communications. Standing means standing up. Matt Sanders for research operations, Shiva Jayaraman for our industry partnerships, where's Francine? Francine Lycan for grants and finance, Jennifer Mullins, I bragged about with CIC and the think tanks, and Don Schoner, who's probably just making sure everything goes smoothly. This is a fraction of the team. These are the leads of the teams that are doing so much to support activities across Georgia Tech. Keep standing. Then we have Lee McCook, our deputy director at GTRI, Russ and Matt, who's already standing, leaders of RNOC, and Mary Beth is also probably teaching right now. She's here. Yay, she got someone else to teach. Thank you. Mary Beth Gandy, the head of our IMTC Center. These folks make a difference in terms of everything that we're able to do. And so if you ever have this question of, how can IPaT support the research and the educational activities, the mission and strategic plan of Georgia Tech, find any one of them. They will be able to support you and be able to get you to the right people. Speaking of IRI supporting the mission of Georgia Tech, one of the things that you were briefed on last term, spring term, were an evolving set of metrics for IRI performance. So if you find us doing new things, it's because partly we're making sure that we are adhering to these metrics and goals and the data keeping associated with them. So that's why, for example, we have an attendance sheet, because we want to make sure that we know who is attending our events, whether it's a large event like this or the town halls or even just partnership meetings where we pull people together across campus. We're going to be making sure that we're focusing on major proposals, both at the level of the ERC pre-proposals that'll go in later this academic year, as well as developing new industry partnerships. And again, Shiva runs that shop, so please make sure you connect with him. Some of the things that you will also see us focusing on is ways of enhancing the use of our facilities and making sure that we kind of understand the impact, whether it's the Aware Home or the RNOC Lending Library, our protected health data store, all the different types of facilities and research infrastructure that Matt's responsible for. We will also be paying attention to that too well. Stay tuned, because there's also a set of working groups in the EVPR's office around communications, IT support, finance, grants, and HR that we will be continuing to engage around how to evolve the model of the Interdisciplinary Research Institute and make sure that we're meeting the goals of the strategic plan of Georgia Tech. All right, I'm going to ask Lee to stand up here with me. We're going to spend a little bit more time before I hand it off to the engagement grants, talking through our major research pillars. And this is just a chance for me to brag, and this brag as quickly as I can. But it's just so exciting, all of the great things that are happening. And I think you get to turn that one on. We can do 2 mics, right? Okay. So again, IPaT in one page, shaping the future of human-centered systems, environments, and technologies to promote satisfying, fulfilling, and productive lives. We do that through our 4-point mission that really is encapsulated by the people that you saw standing up. And we work across these pillars: lifelong health and well-being, smart cities and inclusive innovation, the human technology frontier, and platforms and services for socio-technical systems. We have a set of faculty that continue to support kind of the full pipeline of what an IRI is meant to accomplish. So all the way from the visioning of the basic and blue sky research through applied research and into economic development. So that's why you see us having these 2-part teams working together to steward those portfolios. And now the fun parts. What have these folks been up to lately? Huge shout out, and Craig is not here, so this is his fault, but you get to pat his back later. But where's Jennifer and the rest of the team? There we go. So yeah, come on, keep standing, keep standing. So Brad is hiding. So Craig started this. Herb is here. Herb, please stand up. You're going to be involved. I know you're involved in this too. So Craig started nagging me, because you guys know Craig, right? Okay. Craig started nagging me like, Beth, there's this huge opportunity to work with Emory. Yeah, you guys sat down as quickly as you could. To work with people with mild cognitive impairment and to do like crazy research, the things that we dream of. This is really big, this is really big, this is really big. Like, okay, Craig, I hear you, I hear you. So we started going to meetings. Jennifer dug in really hard. Brian dug in really hard. We bugged Brad about Home Lab. And as of 2 days ago, $23.7 million was announced to fund this new program as a partnership between Georgia Tech and Emory. So um, I will say that Emory gets more than half, but they are building a whole new building and facility for us. But we will be able to work with these fellows, the people who have been diagnosed with MCI. We will be able to work with their families. We will be adding at least 60 homes to Home Lab as part of our cohort of the families that we work with. Jennifer was brilliant and proposed an innovation accelerator as part of that. So we will be working both with student innovation and outreach to industry. And we have a 4-year runway that starts any day now. So incredibly exciting news, and just hats off to the folks who were just determined and courageous enough to say this was something that was worth pursuing. Gabby is hiding over there as well. Um, so other things in lifelong health and well-being. So you've got the first one, Tech Sage 2, RERC. I'm not allowed to officially say it yet, but we think $4.7 million of funding for the renewal gets to be announced maybe even next week officially. So that's another 5 years for that one-of-a-kind center. So hats off to John Sanford, who might be here somewhere, to Mary Beth, again, Brian, and others who are core. He has class. Students, pesky students. Okay, all of this work will is going to be able to be connected into 2 of the ERC planning grants that were also awarded to members of these teams that are going to focus on technologies for aging. So incredibly well positioned to be competitive for that. Nicoletta Servant's not here, but I get to brag about her. One of the things that I want to point to within this is when we started IPaT 7 years ago, we took some bets that were both strategic and serendipity, right? Serendipitous, in the things that we could look at. And what is amazing is to see the returns on that this time period later. So one of the things that we took a bet on was that having unique access to the Medicaid data, being one of the few academic institutions that could build enough security safeguards to be able to protect and support research in this data, would be worth doing. And I agreed that we were going to do it, and it was way harder than I thought. But now we are seeing tremendous returns on that. So Nicoletta is pulling in a major R01 from the NIH on this in terms of her work for understanding access to dental care. And she is also getting a Interdisciplinary Research Leader Award from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and that is officially embargoed. So delete that from the webcast. But that is going to be officially announced in a couple weeks' time. So those are both tremendous awards that recognize the investments in that research and the leadership that Nicoletta has accomplished. And then I want to switch over because it should be on this one, but maybe it's on the platform side. But go ahead and talk about MMIS. Okay.
Always happens when I call IT. They just walk in my office and it works. Okay, so John Wandell is in this room over here, and I want to give him kudos for leading a huge to win. Told all the states they will integrate and stream leading integrating at least 127 software platforms. How many numbers? Lots of software programs. So this is a team. Richard Starr has been a key member of EI Squared, is very involved in it, along with many people across GTRI. We're in the planning stages this year. The first grant was for 1.9 million for this year, and it looks like at least 5 to 7 years in the upwards of $20 million leading this major program that will impact the state. So congratulations to that team, definitely. I also want to mention we're doing additional work, growing work with CDC, including decision support tools by Brad Fain and his team, and lots going on in Chai. Sorry, I asked John for some examples, and he told me death reporting and STDs. So I'll let you ask him about that later. So.
All right, because putting both on mute didn't work. So a couple of things I want to add to this, and we'll continue to move on to the other pillars. So many of you know that we formed a partnership with Emory and Georgia State and Morehouse to form a diabetes translational research center. And again, that's one of those bets that you kind of assume it's going to pay off in the end, but you want to understand how that's going to happen. So I got to participate in the program review for the Sea Grant meeting and kept my mouth very quiet as I realized that the top 2 grants and the only 2 grants that were going to be funded this round were both Georgia Tech grants. So congratulations to our team for pulling those in. Jiten Shabra and Shane Owen are leading one of those, and Doug Bonner is leading another. One's around mobile health and engaging patients, and another is around kind of modeling and data analytics to understand access. So again, the full breadth of our research being represented by that group. The Center for Humanitarian Systems has celebrated their 10th annual conference. Pinar is here, as well as their 8th anniversary for their professional education work. And we're going to be able to broadcast more about that in our newsletter, but just tremendous to see kind of the engagement and sustainability of those efforts. In our research infrastructure, Mac and his crew, including Richard Starr and Paul and others, get the credit around the high trust certification work to make sure that we're having a HIPAA compliant environment. Again, infrastructure that's necessary to make our research competitive, as well as allowing easier access to the Medicaid data sets as we continue to grow that research base. So in smart cities and inclusive innovation, if you're wondering why a few people aren't in the seats right now, it's because they're just down the way at Georgia at GTRI headquarters looking at the Georgia Smart Community Program, and they'll be joining us hopefully by the end of this program and into the reception. But the communities that are gathered around these 4 areas, City of Albany, City of Chamblee, Chatham County, and Gwinnett County, plus the Georgia Tech researchers that are now taking a smart cities approach and understanding what it means to expand that across an entire state and across a very different, diverse set of needs. Really, I was there with them all morning, just a tremendous set of discussions and excitement around the ground that is being broken by these communities and their partnership with Georgia Tech. Many of the folks there talked about the success of the North Avenue project with the city of Atlanta. And this is Mike Hunter and his teams in civil environmental engineering working through the different types of traffic simulation and access routes for this area. Faith Dunaway was there in the panel this morning talking about already quantitative metrics satisfied for decreasing traffic accidents, fatalities, as well as easier access for emergency vehicles being able to travel that route and having an immediate impact in the quality of lives within that neighborhood. I don't think Jennifer and her team are going to take credit for everything that the City Hall is doing right now in terms around data transparency, but you can ask her at the reception if how much of that is due to their work. But certainly some of the work that they did funded by the Sea Grant program around open government data access for smart cities has been recently published and we know has had an influence in the thinking that they've done. You're going to hear about 2 engagement grants in this area and then continued work around access to the City of Atlanta data. And I want Lee to talk about the Marines.
This area has been a growing area for us, obviously, as we're going into smart bases and smart installations. And Georgia Tech was recently awarded by the Marine Logistics Command out of Oney about smart logistics. So we're having more conversations on smart bases with the Pentagon and with Fort Benning and with others. But Jeff Evans and Tim Brown from ISYE, Margaret Loper, JP Pellegrino, they're all leading a growing effort in this area, which will involve things like sensors and AR, VR, and ways to understand how to do logistics better.
Again, looking at the impact of starting these activities not that long ago and already seeing some terrific results and impact out in the world. Around shaping the human technology frontier, one of the things that I want to point to in this space is the increasing engagement of media and technology researchers across different human-driven needs, whether that be the arts, entertainment, as well as education. So Brian McGarrico, Jason Freeman's team won an additional $1,000 million from the NSF around broadening participation in computer science. So again, just the continued impact and growth of EarSketch. And I think Brian was the speaker at the GV Brown Bag earlier today. We have our first grant from the National, now I'm blank, National Endowment for the Humanities. I always want to say arts. And this comes with our partnership of cataloging and ensuring the legacy of historic rural churches of Georgia. So not a typical funding agency for Georgia Tech. I'm very excited about this opportunity. We will continue to work more on research support for mobile app development, and you'll see some of that in your think tanks. And then I want you to talk about the media survey.
This is a program we've been doing with CDC and USAID to try to both capture quantitative and qualitative data, specifically on the effectiveness of Zika response, Zika campaigning, marketing campaigning for prevention of Zika in both Brazil and the Dominican Republic. So we've been able to use this mobile app that we've developed to capture both qualitative data and analyze that along with the quantitative data. We're in the stages right now where we're doing the data visualization piece, and we've been accepted to present this at a workshop at the Net Hope Summit in November, which you may remember we hosted here at Georgia Tech 2 years ago. So we're excited about that.
You'll hear more about the engagement grants in this space as well, continuing to push those frontiers for us. And then finally, one of the things that we have noticed in the investments that we have done in the evolution of our research community, as we worked in these different spaces, we've started to have a richer understanding of what are the tools and the infrastructure, the platforms and services that are necessary to bring innovation to these different domains and to be able to create a sustainable and scalable approach across the board. So we have a number of areas that are growing in the work that they're doing. We have our work within the Georgia Smart Communities Challenge in the C-level tools. So this is our partnership with Savannah. That is Russ Clark, who will be played by Harrison Ford in the movie. How to save Savannah from climate change. We have a growing partnership with Westside, so Carl DeSalvo, Ellen Zagur, and others on careful coding, which is again now understanding the types of platforms and tools, some of them paper-based, some of them technology-based, some of them really focused on how to have an authentic and productive engagement within the community for able to pull in data that is of decent quality, that is validated through the community partnership, to be able to do the technical term I love, data wrangling, which is how to intersect this data, how to have mediated discussions through different data sets, and then all of that contributing to data literacy, to empowering the residents to be able to speak on behalf of their community through these new tools and these new platforms. We have work in IPaT research infrastructure that continues to expand the base of what our community is able to do. And then I'm going to swap to Lee to talk about these two projects that I think we've also briefly mentioned. Okay, we've already talked about these. So it's hard to say it's a health project and it's a platform project because it's enabling new innovation. And then I'm going to use this as a handoff to Raul. Okay, who better be coming up here. So one of the things that we've also seen is that platforms and services creates a new mechanism for our industry engagement. So a number of the programs that Raul has been helping lead around understanding complex ecosystems and the data analytics and visualization technologies needed for that have allowed us to continue and build partnerships with Intel and Google, Northern Lights. I really am excited about this notion of ecosystems of hype and following understanding kind of our continued nuanced understanding of the industry ecosystems around startups and around supply chains and different types of business dealings that I'm going to let Raul explain. That's the best I'm going to do. All right, next slide.
Okay, great. Thanks, Beth. So my name is Rahul Basoli. I'm a faculty member in the School of Interactive Computing and also associated with the Institute for People and Technology. So what Beth mentioned is a series of research activities that we're pursuing of understanding competitive landscapes and systems. One of the main initiatives that we have right now, if you have any interest in surviving, growing, or innovating in the future, you need to have an understanding how to assess risks, how to manage those risks, anticipate opportunities. And so it's virtually every organization, every firm is really interested in that. So ultimately, we have an initiative where we're looking for platforms for competitive intelligence. There's a huge opportunity currently supported by companies like Google, like KPMG, Adobe, Intel, that are interested in understanding future trajectories of markets. The goal for this particular initiative and for this year is to cultivate an interdisciplinary community across different units on campus. So we have engagements already with Industrial and Systems Engineering, School of Management, School of Economics, International Affairs. One interesting project that we're pursuing with the School of International Affairs, for instance, is how do we map the emergent nuclear ecosystem and how do political, cultural implications actually impact how companies collaborate. Certainly a very contemporary issue that we think about, certainly the political climate that's happening. We want to establish a research agenda that identifies grand challenges. I think one of the terms in here, what is a grand challenge within this? Well, it's not your typical engineering problem. It's really a socio-technical system. So we're not just trying to engineer a physical artifact, but one that involves a lot of different stakeholders, and there's a lot of challenge at different levels of analysis. One that could be at the ecosystem level, at the firm level, perhaps even at the technology and product level. The work that we're pursuing with Google right now is understanding how digital infrastructures are evolving, and in particular how boundary resources like APIs and SDKs are going to change the way we develop new products, how we collaborate, how new value is created. So the goal is to facilitate knowledge exchanges, bring in some luminary speakers from different universities and also from industry to campus, and hopefully identify and advance the state of the art in these tools, methods, and practices. If you come over to TSRB and our Viz Lab, we've developed a series of tools that are actually already being used by practitioners, but we'd love to enhance that. Certainly there's a lot of opportunities and bring new methods from data analytics, visualization, and other fields together. And certainly enable funded research streams. I've found that there's a healthy appetite for these opportunities. We have some alliance projects that are going on with major digital manufacturing companies as well. And I would love to see more happening across the IPaT network. And there's a lot of research activities. If you can think of a domain, there'll be a need to understand the competitive landscape. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Raul. So as you were able to see in the pillars that we looked at today, there's been some areas where IPaT engaged very, in our very first days around building up kind of our partnerships around the healthcare space. I'm looking at Sherry and Marla, and I think Steve Rushing has come in. And we've been able to now turn that into quite significant research programs here. We have other areas that have started more recently, where we're now starting to see kind of the seeds of that impact and near-term impact, and we can imagine how that is going to continue to grow. And then we have relatively nascent areas where we have individual research leaders, but we now need to figure out how to come together as a community, build out the partners, and build out that ecosystem. And that was one of the reasons that I asked Raul to speak to this slide and speak with you today. So as we go now further into the future, of course, the best ideas do not come from the talented people on the IPaT staff just squirreling amongst themselves, but they come from the engagement with the larger Georgia Tech community and the leadership that we have across campus. So we get to spend the rest of our half an hour or so hearing from these 6 engagement grants. And really the instructions to them are along the lines of tell us what you're exploring and tell us how the folks are around wearable technologies.
So I'm teaching a new class for literature, media, and communication called Wearable Technology and Society. And this grant is for, it's pretty simply for materials for the students to be able to work on a wearable technology project. But I'm really excited about the project. So it's for artistic collaboration support. I work for the Interactive Media Technology Center and the Wearable Computing Center, and Jay Bolter heads up computational media, and the class that I'm teaching is in literature, media, and communications, so we work together on this. For the Wearable Computing Center, we work a lot with industry on solving direct R&D research problems. And we've also worked with the Georgia Tech Center for the Arts. So it's a lot of cross and transdisciplinary work. Within this class, what I'm asking students to do is work again with performance artists in a collaboration rather than a mentor saying, I need this for the stage, but to actually work through the project together and come up with an idea that works for everyone. What's exciting too is that in the other projects we were working with researchers, and now we're using those methods that we found worked from working with researchers and now seeing how students can use those same methods. And we are working with a number of different performance artists. We're working with 2 drag queens from the local Atlanta community. Part of the reason I thought it would be interesting to work with drag queens is because it's all about performance and change of persona. So having some kind of technology that aids in that personal interaction on stage. And if you've ever been to a drag show, you know that there's a lot of interaction. So having that would be great for the students. And then the other project performance artist we have is Max Wu, and he's a hip hop dancer. And some of the students specifically wanted to work with a break dancer or a hip hop dancer. And I was excited when I started looking at his work because he's already using video to express his movements in a grander way. So perhaps we can use wearable technology to do that for a live performance. If you would like to learn about this project, as it develops, we're going to have a website come up on the Wearable Computing Center. We're going to have a web page come up on the Wearable Computing Center website, and which can also be linked to IPaT. But you can definitely look for us there at wcc.gotech.edu.
This is where I play Oprah. Hi, everybody. I'm Ellen Zagura. I was trying to think in 2 minutes how to say drag queen in my presentation, but I can't figure it out. So that's it. That's all you're going to get. I'm representing myself and also Carl DeSalva, who's sitting in the back, and Mike Best, who is traveling today. And the 3 of us are very appreciative and grateful to IPaT and GVU for giving us some financial support for an effort that I've actually talked about over a period of time, but Mike's return from Macau and work with the UN has really kind of given us the reason to do something about this now. Okay, so I don't know that I have to say anything more than this picture. So conveniently, yesterday, Sheryl Sandberg and Jack Dorsey from Twitter and Facebook testified before Congress. And so there are many, many exciting things happening in technology and in computing, but there are also many, many sobering things happening. And so one of the ways that we are framing development of a new center is around both responsible computing and ethical and careful and critique-based computing, together with being collaborative and creative and putting forth new ideas. So this is a center where we hope that both critique and contribution will come, and that some of the same people will both critique and contribute. So we don't want to be, somehow the technology police, the awarders of gold stars. But at the same time, we don't want to sort of recklessly put computing out into the world and wash our hands of what happens after that. So we are working on a Center for Computing and Society. We are thinking about it sort of in 3 different kinds of ways. On the left-hand side, kind of a set of themes that I hope help point to what's maybe different about the focus of a center like this from other efforts that are similar and that we actually hope we will work very closely with. So themes like data justice, peace technologies, that's directly comes from the work that Mike did with the UN and with support for peacekeepers, UN peacekeepers, and civic media. And then around issues like those in the center, poverty, class, gender, race, democracy, markets, within larger conversations that you'll recognize, if you pull up any funding sources, set of solicitations, things like smart and connected communities, education, informal learning, data science, etc. This is very much a work in progress, so please don't take it as we're done. And if you see yourself here, we'd love to talk to you, and otherwise not. We're really still in very early days. And in fact, we want to try to take a different approach to the creation of this, using some of the methods that we hope will underpin the work that we eventually do, like participatory design. We want to eat our own dog food. We want to use those methods in the creation of the center as well as in the work of the center. So we think of this as very much open process. And we will be doing some things that we hope are a little bit out of the box about to help us shape and help us shape and you shape what this center could be. In the very short term, we're going to have an every other week CNST with real tea. We hope even the Brits would give it a thumbs up. Becky, that's going to start. We're hoping that's starting next week. We have a mailing list very soon. And we will be leading a think tank in the middle of October. And I won't go so far out on the limb to say it's different than any think tank you've ever done, but I'm hoping that it's going to be somewhat different than any think tank that IPaT has had before. All right.
Challenge accepted. All right, Laura. And Anne, who is actually from LMC, not psychology, but
I was going to correct that. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I am a research scientist at the Interactive Media Technology Center, and my co-PI is Anne Sullivan, who is a new hire to LMC from UCF. And our engagement grant is Connecting Georgia Tech with the Future of Esports. We have been exploring a lot of different multi-pronged research threads and approaches to doing HCI research in this space. And what's kind of exciting is it's a way for us to do over sports, like traditional sports. We get to do this in a different way with esports. So even though esports have been around for about 30 or 40 years, with new platforms and technologies in the past 10 or 20 years, we get to do a lot of really fun stuff. And as Georgia Tech, we can delve into these fundamental HCI research questions to tackle a bunch of these different kinds of questions, like how do we design towards diverse communities? How do we support people who don't play games, but they want to get into the esports culture? How do we support people who only play Dota, but they don't know what they're looking at when they watch an Overwatch stream? There are a lot of things in traditional sports that we take for granted, like all the information. If you're watching football on television, you see all of the different scores and what down they're on, the augmented reality line. We don't really know how to do this in esports right now. So this grant is supporting students in our VIP class that's being taught for the first time this semester called Future Technologies of Sports. There are 3 research pillars in this course, and one of them is esports. So I think we have 14 students in this class. Depending on the timing of the semester, of course, students take this over multiple semesters, usually until they graduate. They will be tackling different research threads in this. And we are partnered with Braves and the Georgia Tech Athletic Association, but in particular with HiRes. So these students will be going to DreamHack here in Atlanta, but because they're designing towards these different research threads about live esports tournaments, asynchronous watching of these tournaments, they need to go to a professionally produced one. So much of this funding is for travel, for them to go to Anaheim to see a regular season game for Overwatch at the Blizzard Arena there. Because this research really needs to be funded or rooted in industry and working with industry, the other side of this, not only supporting students to go and have this experience so that they can design more thoughtfully towards it, but also to support research partners like Anne and I and other people to bring more of these collaborations with industry back to tech, both locally to keep supporting our relationship with HiRes, but also go after other studios and other people that would be interested in this kind of research. So we are doing a think tank November 8th. So if you're around then, we're going to do a think tank around esports. The high res people will be there, and we'd love to have your thoughts. And if you're interested in joining us, we'd love it. Thanks.
Yep, and kudos to Laura, Shiva, and company that have continued to champion this as part of IPaT's agenda. Significant representative from the NCAA was here just a couple of weeks ago and just immediately perked up. Said that we were looking at esports kind of up and down the stack, not only from the players' perspective and the fan performance, but also kind of the curriculum and educational challenges associated with essentially these kids within that space, and the interest by NCAA to kind of their role with is as esports continues to grow as a topic on campus. So I appreciate that these dedicated folks are keeping IPaT on the edge of these topics. Jennifer, you're up. I didn't say everything about this yet. I just bragged about it. Congratulations again. Yay.
Yay, us. So we win the prize for the engagement grant with the longest title and the largest number of collaborators. And so I think we have Herb Velasquez is here in the house. Gabby Campilia is here. And Brian and Brad is still hiding, but Craig is not. So, so you'll just have to deal with us. So I'll tell you just a little bit more about the empowerment program, not the engagement grant, but the empowerment program that was funded just 2 days ago. I've been living in it's a new world since then. So we were thrilled and excited when a year ago when Dr. Alan Levy contacted us and asked us to be an integral part of this. And so we have spent the last year, a lot of that was Craig, who's not here to enjoy this moment, but working very hard to bring this in. But what we also did was we really worked to expand the scope of it and to show that, and this is a conversation that we have a lot here at IPaT, right? But that the skills of what Georgia Tech can do are much bigger than what people maybe think it is. So we spent a lot of time helping expand that vision and show how integral technology and the built environment are, along with therapeutic programs, and really building out this empowerment program to be a lot bigger than daycare. So it's no longer a daycare program for people with mild cognitive impairment, which is like the very early stages of Alzheimer's, doesn't always progress to Alzheimer's. So we are now part of this 4-year program, which is going to happen. I'm so thrilled to be able to say we are a key player in that. There is a significant amount of that funding that is coming here to Georgia Tech. We own basically the technology part and the built environment and the innovation accelerator. And this is going to be a big piece. Also, GTRI is involved with Home Lab, and it's going to just be really exciting and cool. And this engagement grant is going to allow us to really cast a wider net and bring a lot more people in. So through this last year, we had an opportunity to work with a small team inside Georgia Tech, but now with this engagement grant, we're going to go out, take the show on the road, and talk to many more of you. So I'm going to give you a little highlight about the 3 pillars that we're going to be running, and then tell you kind of what's in it for you, or why should you be excited, not just because you're happy for us, but what you're going to get out of it, and then how you can engage with us. So the built environment, this is the piece that Craig Zimring will lead up through the Cemtegrate Design Lab and with our newest Cemtegrate colleague, Gabby Campilia, who I'm going to point out again. And really, I think the beginning vision that Emory had when they asked us in was that we would help them come up with the best space possible for this day program, which is going to happen in Executive Park. So that's going to be built out. And we're going to do that. But we've demonstrated to them that it's much more than that. It's also about ongoing research programs. So we'll help them get the best space that they can to do the most innovative programs. But then we're also going to be doing ongoing and continuing research about how the built environment can improve the lives of people with MCI and help them retain independence. There's also, of course, technology projects, which are going to be very exciting. And the lead on this is Brian with Brad, connecting in with a lot of the work the Home Lab is doing and expanding that. So this is going to be one of the specific things we get to do is instrument 60 homes with a suite of technologies that we'll be able to use to monitor people, track their progress, and then integrate that data with the programs that we're doing in the day program to track how effective they were or to evaluate them. We can also use those homes as test sites to try out new technologies and to find ways to help people be safer, but also to be more independent, supporting their memory, track their progress, and decrease social isolation. So we've got lots of exciting and interesting ideas, and now we have this platform, we're gonna be able to test that out. And then the Innovation Accelerator, which I get the opportunity and honor to lead up. And that's actually, I went ahead and got a head start and started on that project already. So this is trying to take those three areas of therapeutic, built environment, and technology, and how can we speed that up and get things, get things out in the real world, working with all the creative people that we have here at Georgia Tech. So really kind of building on the Quick Wins program, right? Or modeling on that or copying it, right? So how can we get things happening quickly? So we've actually already done some of this work with students in the spring. Herb Velasquez, who's an industrial design professor, he ran a studio where his students worked on some projects. John Sanford did the same. And then this semester, actually, there's 10 industrial design students working on developing a kitchen, designing a kitchen that will go in the Executive Park MCI Empowerment Program that will be kind of a coaching kitchen. But what's really exciting about that particular project for me, not just the exciting, enthusiastic 10 senior industrial design students, but we have 2 couples that we've recruited because that's kind of how they come. They come as a set, right? You get one with MCI and one without who drags them to the meetings and gets them involved. But we've got them actively involved as co-designers in the project. So, kind of see this as a pilot of how we're going to run the program going forward. The vision is there will be lots of classes, not just in an architecture and design, but lots of ways in which we can come up with great projects. And don't fall asleep yet. There, what's in it for you is that there will be ongoing seed grants announced that will be 3 seed grants, each of $50,000 a year for the next 4 years to get more things excited, more things going, to get it out beyond just this core group of people working on the project. And we'll, of course, work with industry because I think there's a huge market and let them know what kind of opportunities there are. So what is the benefit to you? I know you think that $150,000, that's enough of a benefit, right? To apply for those grants. But what there also is, right, is data. We are going to have this data and access to research subjects, which we all know how valuable that is, right? So we're going to have the brain health fellows, what we're calling the patients, because we want them to be active participants in the research. So we will have those available to work with us. They will all, as they get to participate in this program free, this day program. They will, at part of the cost to them though, is they have to agree to participate in research. So here we have the subject pool ready and willing to work with us. We'll have these 60 homes that Brad's going to outfit that we are going to be collecting data from. So it'll be a nice set of rich data. We will have providers and clinicians from Emory who we can call up and engage in these projects. We'll have this data set. We'll have these real world projects, which I think students find very engaging and compelling to see something where, when I told the students yesterday that the kitchen they're designing, it's going to be built because we get the funding for the program, they were pretty excited about that. And then the seed grant opportunities. And then how you can engage with us is we will have dates TBD. We will have some meetups here on campus. Haven't set the date for that yet, but we'll have one in the fall where we're going to work to find out kind of what's the landscape of everything that people are doing that are relevant to not just mild cognitive impairment, but of aging and helping people live fuller, richer lives. Then we're going to coalesce that and synergize that and figure out what those, some key areas in there. Have another meetup in the spring where we say, okay, here are the things that kind of came out where we think we could make some progress, bring people back in, and try to work that towards more projects. So, right, so how can we expand the scope of the projects, look for funding outside of this big $23.7 million if we needed more. We are also going to be doing a think tank. We are on January 24th, so we'll see if we have a no snow day that day, or there are other activities on aging, the two ERC planning grants, one that Beth is the co-PI on and another in psychology with Chris Herzog, and those are both around technologies and aging. And we're going to set up a listserv and a website. And this is really outside of my domain. Help me, Brian. So I think we might do Microsoft Teams is what we're looking at, but that we don't have it yet. So in the meantime, you probably know one of the 5 PIs on this project you can contact, or you can contact me and then I'll get you on this, whatever it is, list where we'll keep you informed about what we're doing and you can be engaged.
Terrific. Okay, and all the other engagement grants have to bring in $23.7 million by the end of their grant. 20 million, even 20 is good. So turning it to Matt now.
Wow. I was going to say that was a tough act to follow already, but this effort is. I was going to keep this positive. This is based on years of frustration, but as I look around the room, I suspect that many of you have had this same experience where you've tried to do something on the campus using the campus as a living lab. And if you're successful, what you've done is maybe recreated a wheel, right? Or you've had to tread some trails that maybe you thought could be a little bit easier. So what we're going to attempt to do is try to pull together a lot of expertise from the community. We have a fair amount of experience with this ourselves. I know some of our partners are in the room, including Jessica from Facilities. So she's an unknowing accomplice in this effort. But there are many others, including folks in OIT and the library, folks we've worked with over the years. What we'd like to do is understand better and really help the rest of the campus understand more on the operational side what it would mean to for researchers to have the ability to use the campus as a living lab in sustainable ways. So we want to decrease startup time, and we want it to be more sustainable, because what we find is a lot of research efforts, they require, let's say, data over a long period of time in order for you to be able to do meaningful work. At the same time, it's a two-way street. So at the same time, we also hope to build a repository of knowledge and hopefully maybe even some agreements that would allow researchers to better understand what some of the operational constraints are for, let's say, getting access to certain types of student data, or anybody from Campus Life in the room? That's another group that we'll be bringing in, but that's another good example, right, of a group that would like to get access to different types of teaching and learning data from the campus. But I've been in a number of those conversations over the years, and we're always starting from zero. So the question is, what does it look like to kind of build up a tool set and a capacity so that we're not retreading these roads over and over again? I'm going to just say that I didn't think about it until today, but I thought about Lee and the GTRI folks who I know have worked with the police department, for example. That's another good example. So I'll be the first to say that we don't know all the people who should be in the room. And so we're going to have a think tank on October 25th. And if you have experienced this, if this sounds familiar, maybe this is a support group call out, right? Then please join us if you know someone who's done something. And I think we're also interested in failures, right? Places where we had great ideas, we were going to do something, but it just didn't work out. And so Steve Rushing still here, the health center, maybe that's one. I know you and I have tried that a few times. But I think there's a lot of opportunity for success in this space. I think small things will amount to big successes here. So please join us.
It's like, hi, my name is Beth, and I have tried to use the campus as a living laboratory. So I will be at that support session. And this is, again, repeating the theme that one of the ways that we know to make the campus, our community, successful in their research is to really push the envelope in terms of research infrastructure. And I'm really excited that Matt and Russ and others are embarking on this, because we saw it with the Aware Home ages ago. We saw it with kind of making that Medicaid data access happen. I stood up in the room and testified why Home Lab would be a good idea. And boy, that has taken off. So we know this makes a difference, but it really does require kind of courageous leadership at the beginning to kind of get through those frustrations and initial failures. So, okay. And now getting to the people who've returned from the other side of campus. So turning it over to Chris Ledantic, or maybe Alyssa, or Chris and Alyssa. Oh, hi.
Thank you. I was filling in for Chris, but he's here. So I love public speaking, so I'm going to take this one for the team, right? So I'm a PhD student in the digital media program, and along with Chris, we're looking at understanding the implications of new digital technologies like AR and VR in the workplace environment. So my background is actually in manufacturing, so it's really exciting to be able to do this research because those types of technologies like AR and VR and mixed reality are becoming tools on the manufacturing floor, which are changing the workforce and the skills required to do those jobs. So, with this seed funding, we've actually formed a new partnership with GE Aviation to look at understanding the implications of VR for engineering analysis. And a couple of weeks ago, we just finished our first initial technology assessment in the aviation headquarters in Cincinnati, Ohio, working with the human factors and maintainability team. So the VR tool is actually trying to determine whether or not on a new engine model, human access and posturing, as well as tool access, can be created for mechanics on the shop floor, as well as technicians in the field before that new engine model goes into manufacturing. So we're looking at this to conduct a usability study and ask broader questions about the use of VR, what some of those use cases are going to be, as well as how that changes the nature of work for the engineering team. And we're looking at how this intersects with the NSF Future of Work initiatives, and that's kind of the next step that we'd really like to leverage as the work continues to progress. So we'll both be here if you have any questions, and thanks for your time.
That was great. And Chris, I think she just really slammed your public speaking skills, but we'll talk about that later. So, as we wrap up this program, we're going to do a few more things. Deborah, if she's willing, is going to come tell us a teeny bit about what they've been doing all day on the other side of campus with the Georgia Smart Communities Challenge. But, in closing around the engagement grants, just the excitement. This was a pretty broad-based call that Keith and I wrote. We weren't quite sure what we were going to get. And what we see is engagement through our students and through our classes. We see engagement through new industry partners, across the board. We see engagement with very timely calls to action amongst our research community and creating a new, research space for us to explore. And we see engagement with our partners across campus in terms of what we want to create in terms of our research infrastructure. So really love that FACTS interpreted engagement along all of those facets. And I think it's going to be an amazing portfolio of activities for us to partake in for the rest of the academic year. So an activity that has been well underway is the Georgia Smart Community Challenge. Deborah, do you have a voice left? All right. Perfect. Oh, she brought back.
So hello everyone.
Who
So
has no public speaking skills. Okay.
so sorry I'm late. We just ran a workshop on the Georgia Smart Community Challenge at GTRI 14th Street and just finished. So it's been incredible experience. These are our 4 winners of the Georgia Smart Community Challenge. And they represent such a broad array of transportation, housing, resilience projects. And what's great about this initiative is that it's a year-long engagement. So we're working with the communities throughout the course of the year. This is the first kickoff workshop. 2, the communities have kind of partnered up with a coalition of partners. So it's not just led by local government, it's led by a team of different partners in the area, each providing different roles and responsibility. And 3, I think the most important part for this group is that each of them have an embedded Georgia Tech researcher in this, and they are providing the real research muscle and expertise to really work with the communities throughout the process. And Russ is leading the Chatham County project with Kim Cobb in the earth and atmospheric sciences. So, it's been really great. The other thing that we're doing on top of the workshops is that we have 4 site visits. So not only are the 4 communities coming to engage with us as a cohort, but we're also going to go out and work with them to deepen the engagement. And Chris is here because he's going to help us lead all 3 workshops and all 4 site visits throughout the course of the year in terms of that process. And that, yeah, I see Rich there, was because of a really strong partnership and grant with the Strategic Energy Institute and Epicenter. And then the final component I want to add that we just talked about is that we're going to launch the Smart Community Core, which is we're going to embed Georgia Tech students in each of these 4 communities throughout the course of the summer, and really make sure that they are part of the project and really engaged in this and develop a workforce development experience. And that really got the group galvanized. So, this is the work that we're doing with the 4 communities that have been selected through a very competitive process that we launched, but we're still engaged with all of the communities throughout Georgia. So, that's why we had the open workshop in the morning where any community, regardless of whether they want or not, could still participate and deepen their engagement. And so we had a keynote and a series of panel presentations in that regard. So that's it. Thanks. Thank you.
All right, so definitely by Georgia Tech standards, we are ending on time. We're going to do a couple of things. So first, a round of applause for all of the speakers who participated in this program today.